And we're back after a brief break, and it is politically hot here. Ladies and gentlemen, on the west side, in the island, on Ocean Drive, it's your tax money, it's your issue, and we're talking about CARE and the proposed tearing down of Spawn Memorial. And we want to tell you right here, right now, that it is a hot issue. And with me, joining me back on the panel is Homero Villarreal, publisher of El Defensor, and former county judge Terry Shamsie, talking about the contract with Memorial and Spawn, and also the proposed tearing down. Judge, we left off, and I know that you had some important facts and figures to discuss, and on the heels of Johnny Hip. And I'm not picking on Johnny Hip, but he is in the crossroads there, and in the crosshairs because he's on the hospital district. What inconsistencies on what he said?
Well, I think one of the things that Johnny Hip is very, very smart, and he understands the political game, and he understands the numbers, and he said something I think that was critical. He said that Spawn is getting tired of paying $6 million a year to fix Memorial because they're under a contract obligation to do so. That contract was modified when I was there. It used to be only $3 million a year, and I forced Spawn, through Johnny Hip's help, to modify the contract to $6 million.
So basically what's coming on here is Spawn doesn't want to keep their word on a contract.
That's correct.
Let's just break it down.
That's what it is.
They want to abandon the contract. They want to flip the script.
And what Spawn is trying to do, through their political allies, is control the destiny of health care in Nueces County, so that the voters don't really have a say. Who has a say is Spawn will control the marketplace, which will mean that inevitably you're going to pay higher rates for your medical care.
Well, newsflash, you can go to HCA, Doctors Regional, which I hear is an excellent ER, and you can go to Northwest over there in Calallen, and you can go to Doctors Regional Bay Area if you want, right?
Right.
But Spawn's controlling 70%.
That's it. They control 70%. If they would lose that 30% of the market, it would be very beneficial, actually, to the other taxpayers in the community, because it would force a competition. More competition, the lower the price.
I've interviewed 12 nurses so far this past week. All of them say Spawn has this integrity line where if there's not enough staffing or if something bad's going on and you know 8 hour waits in the ER on average, all this, if they speak out anonymously, that they're afraid of retaliation, being fired. And once you don't get a job at Spawn, or you're burned in the community essentially, because if you've been at Spawn, they control 70% of the market share.
That's right.
Homero, what are your feelings about this cozying up to the closing of Memorial, moving all the services to the water? People on the west side are not happy.
Joe, I hear that the school district is preparing for a push-a-bond election. I hear that the Delmar Board of Regents is preparing to push a bond election. I hear that several other entities, and if you look carefully who sits in those entities, all of them seem to be linked to the same power group in downtown. Also, we're starting to see, of course, the Spawn Memorial is a Catholic hospital, an international hospital. It's a corporation, as we pointed out. We're talking about the secular aspect of a corporation within the Catholic Church. We're not talking about our spiritual brothers and sisters and priests
secular
that
meaning
don't deal with the
usual.
bank accounts. And what I'm talking about, that these people, their primary agenda is political. It is not spiritual foremost. And I'll say that bluntly. I have a bishop in the family, Bishop Raimundo Peña, and he's the first bishop from this area that was appointed by the Pope. I come from a Catholic family. My grandpa built St. Anthony's Church, La Misión de San Antonio. His name was Antonio Peña. That's why it's called St. Anthony's. And it was basically the Catholic church for the whole Nueces County. Several nuns in the family. So I have this whole history of being right in the middle. He used to come for caldo, the bishop, and every Saturday.
So how does it make you feel that they're trying to hide behind that?
I'm starting
Christian
to see
thing?
the business corporate aspect that has grown within the Catholic Church. I'm starting to look at issues like Dr. Ray Fernandez, who found DNA evidence that links him to being one of the last surviving relatives of the Kennedy Ranch, and the church, when approached, being very callous about the question.
Well, where's the church's role in the healthcare delivery here?
Here, what we're starting to see is, let me go back a little bit to Gracida. Gracida was the bishop, and he tried to take over the Kennedy Foundation, and a lot of people don't. Hold on.
How does that tie in?
Let me tie it in. What I'm trying to see is that we're talking about an entity that is a Catholic hospital, playing a role as a corporation, and we're starting to see the bank accounts people within within a spiritual entity, and what is the bottom line? We talked about net gain, net profit, the less care for the indigent. What does it equate to in the long run?
Dollars.
Profit. We had Bishop Carmody after Gracida, whom the Attorney General, by the way, made him step down out of that Kennedy Foundation, and then made him, he pretty much stepped down as, became an emeritus, or what's that title?
Emeritus Bishop.
Emeritus. Anyway, we had Edmund Carmody. And he was, that's when I met Bruce Holstein, the CEO.
Give us the dirt,
Homero. He came into the West Side. For the first time I saw a CEO of Spawn Memorial come into the West Side and meet with activists, with Mexicanos like me that have an opinion. And we suffer the consequences.
God forbid Mexican Americans.
You know,
have an
one
opinion.
of the and Holstein was part Filipino, part German. I think he was born in the middle of the ocean. He told me the whole story. I told
Heinz
him my
57.
story.
We don't know where he comes from, but he's
Yeah.
damn good. Huh?
I come from a family of 12. I'm number 12. We got very close. You
He's
know,
a good guy.
We're human beings. We loved each other. But he pointed out, he was blunt. He dealt with the truth, put it on the table. A professional transparency really impressed me. And I represent the entity. This is what we're trying to do. Please try to understand my point of view, blah, blah. Very, very professional. And us as well. Please understand the turf you're into and who you're dealing with, the consequences of our community, sensitive civil rights issues that we're dealing with. But we're starting to see that in this case, the Catholic Church, we see Edmund Carmody saying that compassion was the marketing word, I think, they came up with for the Catholic. You saw it all over the place. Now we have the new bishop, Michael Mulvey, who's saying that hope. You'll see him all these billboards around town. Well, I say, where is the compassion?
Where's the hope?
When you
When you're trying
and
to
the
close
hope
that memorial.
when you go to the West Side and you destroy this whole ecosystem where little kids and their families are gonna be dying because here you had an entity that had trauma, had a residency program where if the doctor didn't know, they could turn to the head of the department and bring in a cardiac specialist.
It's like shutting down Cook County in Chicago. It's like shutting down Ben Taub in Houston. It's like shutting down University Hospital in San Antonio and saying, here's Methodist, let's move all those services in.
Well, I ask a question. Is there a precedent? Have they done this before? Have they destroyed an ecosystem in a community in Corpus Christi before? Let me be very blunt. Let's start with the north side. You all saw the north side being demolished completely.
All of that.
Never told.
And they haven't had a meeting.
The master plan.
They haven't had a meeting on the north side with the blacks.
I want to tell you, when 10 years ago, there was a push by Spawn to close the North Side Clinic.
And why is that?
Fault. Well, because they said it wasn't providing enough services. They wanted to close it. Betty Jean Longoria was the commissioner at the time, very strong advocate for that. And in fact, Greenwood, the new clinic on Greenwood, was really the big push came from Betty Jean Longoria. Yeah. And she was the one that made sure the size and all the services that are offered there were going to be provided. to those residents and that located in that part of the area. Spawn had a master plan 10 years ago to rebuild Memorial.
Okay, and how?
Well, what they were going to do is get the county to issue a bond to help rebuild, restructure Memorial. That's 10 years ago. Their master plan has changed because they built on shoreline, and their building costs were something like $10 or $12 million over budget. They built too many beds, and they have to fill it. So how you fill it is you destroy Memorial and you move all the business to your part of town. That's how you do it.
Well, and let
so
me
it's
ask,
a money game.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, so this is a 20-year agenda. It's basically urban planning without permission of the taxpayer.
Or the city council.
Or going to be on the city
Or the
council.
school districts.
Or the school districts.
Or anyone that is remotely involved in law enforcement or transportational costs. There's a lot, times the number of cars and the number of trips, going an extra mile or 2 miles a day.
Having a heart attack 2 miles farther to drive.
It's a big deal. You're talking about, you got to study traffic flows. This isn't something you just throw together.
No.
And they want to do it all in 6 months. The commissioners want to do a $500 million deal in 6 months. No planning. Trust a major corporation. Think about how long it took to study putting in the new Harbor Bridge. Think about that.
A decade, more.
That's right. Now, you're going to do this on a whim. And this has not 1 year effect. This has a 50-year effect on your community. One wrong step, and you could cost this community millions of dollars a year.
We got 2 minutes left. Guys, quickly, Homero, closing arguments.
Well, being raised very close to the Catholic Church, I'm very disenchanted at this point in time. Where is the bishop standing up for the poor and the compassion for the people, the salt of the earth? Where is the leadership that we need? The Hector P. Garcias. Now we see their children being co-opted, and some of them, selling out to the interests of corporations. Barbara Canales Black, of course, was not raised in the barrio. She was born to basically with a silver spoon in her mouth, and I say it openly. I know her well. Her father was a brilliant man, appointed to several government posts because of who Cleotilde and Dr. Garcia. The influence had a big impact financially. She lives on Hewitt Drive.
Take it easy, Tony.
No, I'm saying she sits on the board. Is she representative now of the West Side?
I don't know.
That was my point. The second question is, she's there orbiting and with Theo Claybird and Al Jones, who came to Corpus Christi in 1970 to form American Bank. American Bank created an independent bank that survives by creating a cottage industry, basically, in the community. They make people, the easiest way is to go after taxpayers' dollars, go out for bond elections. Who's going to be the bank that issues the loans?
Who benefits from all this tearing down a memorial? Who benefits?
Well,
you or the county judge?
No.
Who specifically?
The one who will benefit.
Fulton
long
Construction?
run. I don't know who gets the contract,
Whoever
but
gets the bid?
I would tell you it's going to be the corporation of Spawn will benefit. The person who will pay, probably in services, will be probably the West Side. The person who will pay financially will be the South Side and the island. South Side and the island are going to flip. They're going to they're going to pay the taxes. They certainly are.
But they're saying that it's not going to cost them anything.
Well, you know that's not true. It's going to cost them. Of course, it's going to cost them. You think you're going to get the service for free? Really, you're going to get a $450 million hospital for free? You believe that?
And Spawn's going to foot the bill for $450 million?
It's not true.
It's
They're
a
going to
lie.
pay. I think they need to go back and do
10
the
seconds, whammo. We're running out of time. That's it. This conversation will continue. This is going to be on YouTube. This is going to be in printed media everywhere. We're out of time. Thank you. God bless.